Max Verstappen just dropped a bombshell about Red Bull's latest seat swap. While F1 fans scrambled to process Liam Lawson's shock demotion after just 2 races, Verstappen made it clear. The real problem isn't the driver lineup. In fact, he says Red Bull's focus is completely off track, and if that doesn't change, even he can't guarantee results. So is this move really about Tsunoda's rise, Lawson's fall, or a bigger issue inside Red Bull that no one's talking about? Liam Lawson entered the 2025 season with momentum. After 2 high-pressure substitute drives in 2023 and 2024, Red Bull promoted him to the main team. The decision followed his consistent efforts and a solid points finish during his temporary run in 2024. Insiders called it a logical step, given his familiarity with the Red Bull setup. Expectations were high when the season began in Melbourne. However, Round 1 ended in disaster. During Saturday's qualifying session, Lawson clipped the wall at turn 9. The crash left his RB21 heavily damaged and pushed him to the back of the grid. On Sunday, he finished outside the points, trailing behind the midfield. 1 week later, in Shanghai, hopes for redemption faded quickly. Lawson qualified 19th, only ahead of a car that didn't set a time. Analysts described his run as unsteady. They cited grip issues and poor sector exits. Despite minor improvements during the race, he finished far from the top 10 again. Red Bull left China without answers. According to paddock insiders, discussions about Lawson's seat began immediately after Shanghai. Reportedly, the team was reconsidering its early season choices. Just days later, the news dropped. Liam Lawson would return to Racing Bulls, starting from the Japanese Grand Prix. Yuki Tsunoda would take his place at Red Bull. The timing shocked fans and commentators. Lawson had been given only 2 races before the switch. Some insiders say internal data reviews showed setup clashes and feedback inconsistencies between Lawson and the engineers. Others believed the team wanted more aggressive mid-season development support, which Tsunoda's style reportedly suits. Tsunoda's promotion was confirmed during Media Day at Suzuka. This was a major moment for the Japanese driver. Having spent years with AlphaTauri and Racing Bulls, Tsunoda had never raced for the main team. His promotion came at his home Grand Prix. It amplified the pressure and the spectacle. Lawson's demotion, however, raised more questions. Speaking to the press, he admitted to being surprised by the timing, but vowed to prove his worth. He said he understood the decision and would focus on improving through the Racing Bulls program. Sources say he was already reviewing simulator data ahead of Suzuka. The swap altered Red Bull's orbit 2 races into the season. It was the earliest mid-season driver change in the hybrid era, and few saw it coming. Analysts described the move as strategic, pointing to Red Bull's aim to maximize championship points early. And just days after his final Red Bull outing, Liam Lawson was back in Racing Bull's colors. Some say it was rushed, others say it was calculated. But either way, the first twist of the 2025 season came fast and shook up the entire F1 grid. Max Verstappen was asked about the Lawson-Tsunoda switch during Media Day at the Japanese Grand Prix. He began by stating he had already discussed everything internally with the Red Bull Racing leadership team. Verstappen made it clear he would not offer public opinions on the matter beyond those private discussions. "There's nothing else to add," Verstappen said, shutting down follow-up questions from the press at Suzuka. Reporters continued pressing for a deeper reaction, especially given the timing and nature of the early season switch. He remained firm, chose to move the attention away from internal politics and into preparation for the weekend. When asked about Tsunoda specifically, Verstappen offered a very different tone, relaxed and slightly amused. He said he had known Yuki Tsunoda for a long time through their shared time in the Red Bull program. "It's a very natural progression," Verstappen commented, referencing Tsunoda's years of growth in Formula One environments. He mentioned their early training camps, Red Bull factory visits, and past interactions through junior team events. Insiders say Verstappen has quietly backed Tsunoda's work ethic during previous preseason training simulations. Verstappen called Tsunoda a really great guy and complimented his passion, energy, and driving experience. He said Tsunoda has built solid experience over the past seasons and brings a fiery attitude into every session. "He's very passionate and that's very nice to see," Verstappen added during his interaction with Japanese media. He lightened the mood by joking, "Give him a drink and yeah, he gets really fun." That line drew laughter from reporters and broke the apprehension that had built since Lawson's demotion became official. On whether he had personally welcomed Tsunoda to the main team, Verstappen gave a short but clear response. "At the end of the day, it's not even about that," he said, brushing off any dramatic narrative. Verstappen believes that everyone in Formula One works to be successful and deserves their earned opportunities. Sources say the Dutchman has historically avoided involvement in teammate politics or driver placement debates. He also confirmed speaking with Liam Lawson privately following the seat switch announcement after the Chinese Grand Prix. "I've spoken to Liam," Verstappen told reporters. However, he never disclosed any content of the conversation between the two. The reigning world champion then returned the conversation to team goals ahead of the Japanese Grand Prix weekend. He did not reference race data, team politics, or garage tensions. Instead, he chose to stay focused on results. Verstappen's tone was calm, composed, and businesslike across all interactions with the media throughout the day. He avoided controversial comments, gave praise when appropriate, and stuck to what could impact the race weekend. And just 24 hours before lights out in Suzuka, Max Verstappen reminded the paddock, "He talks on track." "For me, it's not about that," said Verstappen when asked if Tsunoda could support strategy calls mid-race. He explained that the RB21 needed development before any talk about driver dynamics would even make sense. Sources say Red Bull is concerned with car balance consistency across qualifying and race sessions this season. Verstappen was vocal about the issue, saying, "We need to just improve our car. That is where the focus needs to be." This statement reflects a change in tone from earlier lighthearted comments about Tsunoda's arrival to the team. He added that he had shared the same concerns directly with Red Bull engineers after the opening two races. The car's unpredictable behavior during corner exits and braking zones was reportedly discussed in technical debriefs post-China. "The team knows what I think about everything," Verstappen repeated, referring again to his internal discussions. He did not mention any specific parts or setups and chose to keep his response limited to general team-level issues. Analysts have pointed out that both Red Bull cars have shown fluctuations in long-run pace during race weekends. Insiders say Verstappen has requested changes in simulator settings and suspension tests following the Chinese Grand Prix. Despite leading the championship, Verstappen believes the car's ceiling hasn't been reached across both garage setups. He said, "You want both cars to use the full potential, and these words hint at missed opportunities in earlier races." Team data shows Tsunoda and Lawson had large setup gaps across both race weekends in Australia and China. This may have prompted Verstappen to push for a more predictable baseline, especially in high-speed circuit conditions. The triple world champion repeated that improvements would help both sides of the garage, including his new teammate, Tsunoda. "I always try to do the best I can with my car," Verstappen told the press during Suzuka interviews. He acknowledged difficulties, but reiterated that setup clarity would help the entire team maximize scoring potential. He said, "I think in general we just need to focus on finding a bit more performance from the car." Verstappen added that making the car more predictable would benefit everyone, including engineers and race strategists. So if performance is the problem, will Red Bull's fastest driver get the car he's asking for? Part 4. The bigger picture. The Tsunoda-Lawson swap wasn't Red Bull's only early-season shakeup. Insiders noticed Red Bull Racing's garage dynamics changing after the Bahrain preseason testing sessions back in February. Reports suggested setup discrepancies had already surfaced during simulation runs before lights out in Melbourne. Performance engineers flagged inconsistent aero feedback between race weekends, even before Australia and China were completed. Meanwhile, Tsunoda had been putting together clean runs with Racing Bulls, often finishing ahead of Lawson in race pace. In fact, data from China showed Tsunoda's long-run consistency ranked higher than several midfield rivals, including Sauber and Alpine. His overtakes were clean, and his tire management showed improved patience compared to earlier seasons. Analysts broke down how Tsunoda's corner entry stability had improved significantly since the 2024 season finale in Abu Dhabi. His readiness wasn't based on performance metrics from winter testing and early races. According to sources, Red Bull's senior decision-makers reviewed comparative telemetry before finalizing the Suzuka weekend driver order. Tsunoda's feedback reportedly aligned more consistently with senior engineers during simulator debriefs ahead of the Japanese Grand Prix. Strategically, the move allowed Racing Bulls to place Lawson in a less intense environment while gathering more long-term data. This reminds Red Bull's history of rotating drivers between teams to extract long-term performance from its driver academy. Previous examples include Alex Albon's move in 2019 and Pierre Gasly's return to Toro Rosso earlier that same year. Tsunoda's promotion also fits Red Bull's aggressive decision-making approach. His home race debut for the main team created a crucial media moment in Japan, and seemingly, Red Bull has embraced it wholeheartedly. Promotional activities increased, and fan turnout for Tsunoda's main team debut broke attendance expectations on Friday. Yet beneath the surface, internal development targets remained unchanged. Aerodynamic gains before Round 5 were prioritized. Insiders say the engineering staff received updated upgrade timelines during the post-China team briefing in Milton Keynes. These included front wing tweaks and potential rear suspension modifications based on early season wear data. Meanwhile, Perez's side of the garage continued running a slightly different setup path focused on mid-corner stability. That difference further showed how Red Bull engineers are still calibrating the 2025 chassis for different driving styles. The seat swap may have taken headlines, but the real story was unfolding inside data rooms and wind tunnels. And just hours before qualifying at Suzuka, Red Bull's top brass were already running 2026 simulations. If performance imbalance lingers past Round 5, internal pressure could rise faster than expected in both camps. So now that the headlines are fading, will this early shakeup help Red Bull fix deeper problems or expose more? Red Bull made the boldest move of the season, but Verstappen says the car holds the answers. Tsunoda's rise, Lawson's fall, and garage pressure are only half the story. What happens if the next upgrade fails to deliver? Stick around and don't forget to hit subscribe. The answer may come sooner than expected.